Cheonggyecheon stream was opened in 2005 as a public recreation area, and it's beautiful. It's about 11 kilometers long. It has 22 bridges crossing it, and it flows into the Han River. Before that, there was a concrete highway built there, but one of the mayors of Seoul decided to replace that giant structure with this stream of recreation area. Also, before that, before the Japanese occupation, the stream was present, but it was used mostly as a sewage system. We're walking along towards Deoksugung Palace, and we cross all these dressed up citizens. Here we are approaching the gate. And this gate for this palace is right across from City Hall. So that building that I'm trying to point out is the present City Hall. It's got sort of an older part and a newer part made out of glass. So this palace is right downtown.
This is one of the downtown palaces.
Deoksugung Palace.
And I thought we'd spend about a half hour here. It's a palace.
These guys. Look at the nose on these guys. This is in front of Deoksugung Palace. And there's a beautiful drop. Inside the gates. Doors. And city outside. Inside. Characters up on the roof. This gate. And we're heading over, I think, to see a changing of the guard. Hello.
So this is Deoksugung Palace, which is one of 5 palaces in Seoul. It's called the Palace of Virtuous Longevity, and I was just so taken by the paintings of the eaves and the building features. But also this one has a throne room, which we're eventually going to get to inside the palace. This what I'm pointing out right now is really just an outbuilding where people would wait to see the king. And this place was inhabited from 1593 to the last king that lived there was in 1919. So that's a long time. That right there is the throne room.
Some more of these cute.
So I'm approaching now. I love these little statues of some kind of dragon with a big nose. They're low to the ground, so I have to believe that whoever made them was trying to engage with children. And they're funny and interesting and kind of friendly. I just love that about Korean culture. And so I think they must refurbish this paint. You can see places where the wood splits. Eventually you'll see more detail like that. But I think they must keep up the colors. And I don't know what they mean yet, the colors. I don't know what the painting means. This walkway, though, to the palace has, I believe, the names of nobles or kings all the way up, since it was used for roughly 300 years, a little more than 300 years. And then there's always forest around all these things. You're in downtown Seoul, but all around the buildings, you'll see these groups of trees. It's just such a lovely part of Seoul that we have so much greenery in the middle of highly inhabited areas. And then they don't have really great stairways to get up to these buildings, but this approach to the palace, to the throne room, includes these large vessels, which I think were places where they would burn fires. The palace, this throne room itself, has much longer eaves, a lot more layers than the other buildings. So I think that's supposed to be, magnifying the presence of the king, and a lot of lattice work around the windows, metal hinges everywhere. And then eventually, when I make it to the doorway here, you can see the throne room has mountains behind the throne, which is supposed to be a symbol of the power of the king, the stability of the king. And then there's also beautiful dragons in the ceiling. And you can't walk through here, but it's just so colorful. I think that this is a museum over here to the left of the palace, to the left of the throne room, that houses all the things that were inside. I think that's a museum of the furnishings. And there's a beautiful fountain in front of it that has otters spitting water. It's so cute. And apparently the tour of that museum is not in English, but I intend to try to go through it at some point. And in the shade, the colors are even more vibrant. So this is the living quarters. The last king who lived there was King Gojang, and he lived there until 1919. And so this part of his house was called Hamyeonjang. And there's more stuff behind it, but I was just struck by how similar this part looked to me to that Japanese house at the Huntington Gardens. There's a big contrast in the color and even in the design of the elements in this residence.
Here's this gorgeous tree, and on the other side of it, a whole lot of buildings that have these lovely paintings and interesting figurines on top. Some little gates. Little gates with flowers painted cute little ways. And now going up to the bathroom. And there's another building back here. The back side of that residence room. See all the little ornate carvings and inner and outer porches.
So then there's more living quarters with more of those fascinating porches. And inside of this building, you'll eventually see some
Inside that long building.
little pieces of furniture, little writing desks, and also the ceilings were just so pretty. But we were only supposed to spend 30 minutes at this palace, and then we walked from the palace to the main square in front of the big palace downtown by the U.S. Embassy and the National Museum. And we went so basically we just kept walking until we got to a restaurant in Insadong, which is like the crafts market kind of section of town. And the restaurant that we went to was a galbi soup restaurant. So we all had short rib beef soup for lunch. It was delicious. It was ridiculously nice. And I couldn't take video in there, but I took pictures. The most fascinating thing about lunch was that there were so many pieces of tools that we had to have. We'd have these tongs to pick up our short ribs, and then scissors to clip off the meat into the soup, and then spoons. And there were bone bowls and all kinds of accoutrement on the table. And we did a little shopping in Insadong, and then we got on a subway. So the next section of video after the big downtown square, after lunch, after this Gangwamun Square, the next section of video will be getting on a subway and going to Lotte Tower, which is a really tall tower in the southeastern part of Seoul. And it's only been open for a few years, like maybe 7 years. And we went all the way to the top in an elevator of that, and so I got a lot of video from the top of that. So there's two big statues. The gold looking one that you can see right now is King Sejong, who was the high king from 1397 to 1450. I believe he invented the Hangul language. The one of the, right there is the American Embassy, right next to King Sejong. The big tall one that was in front of King Sejong is a statue of Admiral Yi Sun Sin, who actually lived later in the 1500s. And I'm not exactly sure what he's famous for. Oh, that was the National Museum of Art, and now you're looking at an outdoor library that gets, it's like a pop-up set up in the evenings from 4 to 9 p.m. So this square, Gwanghwamun Square, leads up to the big palace. And there's actually, that's the National Museum of History. There's actually exhibits underneath those statues that I didn't know about, the Sejong Gallery. So I have a lot to explore, and I definitely need to go back there. Right by the palace. Trees and a big silver vase. Here's where we're headed down into the metro. So that was just outside the metro station, and then we ended up coming out of the metro in Lotte Tower Mall. So we didn't really go outside again. The mall just adjoins the metro station. And then we found the place to go to this experience called Seoul Sky. And Lotte is the name of a family, a conglomerate. What you're seeing in this picture here is Lotte World, which is an aquarium, and also an amusement park, kind of a Disneyland thing, a little bit smaller, I'd say. But they sell food. They have grocery stores. And they built this tower on top of a place where another mall had collapsed. So it took a long time for people to want to go into it because they just believed it was bad juju or something, like they were going to die if they went into this new mall. But the tower has a elevator that goes to the top, and then several places, viewing stations. So right now in this view, this is the direction the school is in. I can't actually see the school building, but I know that the school is there near that mudslide area. And a lot of this stuff that you're seeing is to the south of Seoul. So the tower itself is south and east of downtown Seoul, but it's right next to the Han River. And so there's some amazing views, but you have to be up there on a clear day. And we just lucked out and got there on a really pretty clear day. And this is a view of the Han to the east, and then this is a great view of Namsan Tower to the north and west of Lotte Tower. And just below, I think you'll be able to see the stadium. Yep, that's the stadium we were in for the baseball game. So not too far away from Lotte Town. So I think the views were very nice, and it was a beautiful day, but getting down from the tower, it was a long line to wait for an elevator, and there are no places to sit down, and I was pretty dehydrated by the time I got out of this tower. And I stayed behind. Everybody else ran off to get on a subway or a bus. I stayed behind to rest and drink some refreshments and kind of look around. So the very last clip that you're going to see here, oh yeah, this is outside. You can hear the wind and see the colors more vibrantly when I'm outside. But anyway, I managed to walk back through by myself through the mall and found the subway station, and on my way I passed a beautiful little shop that you'll see has a giant Totoro stuffed animal in front of it because it's a Miyazaki shop. So that's coming up at the end of